Hi everyone and welcome along. The sun is really starting to come out now. It's spring in the UK and the sheep are starting to have their lambs, and I thought, as it's Mother's Day around the corner, in the UK that is, what a lovely addition it would be to our sheep painting tutorial a few weeks back if we added some spring lambs. So grab your paints and let's get started. So do you remember these guys? I absolutely loved painting these sheep. And I thought it was high time we gave them some little lambs because it's spring and it's lambing season in the UK. So I'm going to paint you a few little lambs to go with our sheep. So I'm going to begin by mixing up some sort of sludgy colours. I need some yellow ochre from the top. So we have got a new lens because we really do take on board all your comments really seriously, and we want to try and make this viewing experience as good as possible. So we've got a lens that has brought us in just a little bit more closely. We'll still be doing zoom ins and things, but it means we can rely on them a little less because I know it makes some of you a little bit dizzy, but that's totally cool. We love your support and feedback, and we want to make these videos as lovely as possible for your viewing experience. Okay, so I've made a sort of sludgy, shadowy colour, and I've also got a hair in it. Excellent, it's a good start. And I am going to, in a very similar manner to the sheep, start creating the shapes of these lambs. Now, if you haven't already watched the sheep video, I highly recommend you go and do so, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. Right, so let's begin. So I'm going to start with a sort of body shape. So I've got a lamb from the side here, and I am going to create sort of a bit of a torso, and then we're going to have legs. So one leg, sort of beginning of a leg, beginning of another leg, and then beginning of another leg, beginning of another leg. You'll see what I mean because give them a little tail as well. And then I am going to start to bring the paintbrush up and shape into a nice head. So by doing that, I just create a sort of outline. And for this one, we're going to sort of put a little bit more on top there. And then whilst it's still wet, I'm going to pick up some black just for this little lamb, and I'm going to continue the legs. Look at that, lovely. So what I rather like about these these sheep are the lambs are sort of lovely. They've got these lovely sort of spindly legs. And this sheep painting tutorial is nice and loose, so we don't want too much going on there. So in just adding those feet for the little lamb, we've got a lovely kind of detail all up the body. But I am going to add just a little extra, 2 little dots there of colour. Now we're going to let that one dry, and we'll create another little shape. So you see a lot of lambs actually sort of kneeling down, sitting in the grass. So let's do that one. So we've got a nice sort of body shape here, and you see them sort of with their knees bent. So it's quite hard to create these kind of shapes when you've got a very loose watercolour shape. But if I sort of create the face there with a little bit of fluff on top, and then I've got one bent leg and the other one, I'm just going to do that. So we've got a little bit of unpainted space, just a little bit, and then at the back we're going to have sort of a knee bending back and then the feet coming forward to meet it. So it looks a bit peculiar at this point, but I'm just now carefully filling in the blank space there and getting a little bit of a tail. And I think for this one, we'll add a few brown splodges. And that's the nice thing with this kind of loose watercolour, you can add in those nice shapes. Now we need some nice ears on these lambs, so I'm going to get my slightly smaller brush, and for this one at the top, so the ears are going to be slightly sort of bigger for them. They're going to look a bit mad. But that's the beauty of when you have sort of young animals growing into their features, it's rather sweet. So now I'm just going to create a sort of a pale flesh colour of a peach for this lamb down here, and I've got that colour as well for the ears, so we're going to just create that colour there, and then later on when it's dried a little bit we'll put in a tiny bit of a skin colour. Okay, so we've got two funny looking gangly lambs. I'm going to let these guys just dry a little bit. I'm just going to draw that colour in there because that's quite sweet. Going to let these guys dry, and then we are going to add their faces, and we're going to put a little bit of grass on, and maybe we might put a mummy sheep in as well. Now our sheep have dried. The next stage is to add in a little bit of facial detail. So the way I do that is I get a sort of slightly diluted colour, and I'm just going to give a little bit of detail down the face, and we'll do a slightly warmer colour here. Now whilst we let that dry, I'm going to pick up a little bit of shadowy colour, so a bit of brown and blue, and I can just help this little lamb shape by just giving a little bit of help with the detailing. There you go. And that little bit of peachy colour going in the ears. Now, whilst we wait for these little lambs to dry, why don't we pop in one of our old friends, the big sheep, so closely guarding her flock. So what we do, get a big, nice fluffy wool, and then we just be a little bit careful when we're putting them close to the lamb. I think this would make a really fun Mother's Day card, to be honest, because you've got your lambs and you've got their mum. And I'm going to put in a bit of brown and a bit of black so that both these sheep are represented in their mum there. And have two little peg legs, as there. And we'll probably just about see one of them there, but not too much more. Going to make her a little bit taller. There we go. Lovely. So she can wait for her wool to dry. And then I thought what might also be quite nice is to do just a little bit of green grass. A little bit of context for them. And then we can put in all the details at the end. So when you've got a loose piece of watercolour, now if I just tilt the page a fraction, help me out there, what I'm going to do is I want to make sure I sort of get a sense of a bit of grass, but not so much that I sort of disturb the paint too much, and also that I sort of create too much of a piece for myself. So what I'm doing is I'm sort of giving the sense that I've painted a little sort of patch of grass there with a very loose bit of watercolour. So I'm creating some sort of horizontal lines in a very nice pale way. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to just flick some grass out the top, not adding any more colour for the moment, just with what I've got. And we're going to add a tiny bit more in the background there, but Mum's legs are still a bit wet. This is a nice sort of loose watercolour piece to do. And then what I'm going to do is, with a little bit more Sap Green, just a bit more concentrated and a slightly smaller brush, I'm going to add a few flecks of a bit more colour. And I'm just making the grass sort of flattening out a little bit underneath the lamb that's sat there. It's just a really nice simple way of adding in just a little bit of context. Always put a bit more around the feet. As if they've sort of stamped out the grass. And then what you can always do is clean that brush off and use whatever paint is left to just blend down, just in case you sort of feel your blades of grass are just a little bit too there. Okay, so last few bits to do. Let's give our mummy ewe sheep a bit of a face. And some ears, of course. And then we'll let this all dry 100% and come back for the last little bits of detail. So we need to give our little lambs a nose and mouth and some eyes. So I'm just picking up some black on my brush, and I'm using my just a 3/10, doesn't need to be really, really mini, just as long as it makes a nice fine point. And as we did with the sheep tutorial from previously, 2 eyes that are sort of quite far on the outer edges, and then a little kiss for a nose. So sweet, sorry if I say so myself. So a little curve up and a little curve down. When I do it, the first thing I think is, oh, the sheep looks really sad. And then I realise, no, the sheep's fine. The sheep is a sheep. Okay, and then for Mum, again, nice little bow. And then, of course, now, technically we should sort of leave it like that and not put any horns. Yeah, I think we'll leave it like that, because on the other sheep tutorial you could also add little ram horns there. But I'm really happy with that, and the only thing you could do is add the tiniest bit of shadow to the ground. Seeing as we are doing a proper piece here, we might as well. So if I get a slightly larger brush, my size 2, some French Ultramarine, some burnt Sienna, just nice and dilute. Just a little bit of that just gives popping a little bit in there. This gives a tiny bit more context. But there we have our little lambs to go with our sheep. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that one. And I want to say a big thank you to my patrons for your support, because without that support, I wouldn't be able to create these videos that everyone can enjoy. And if you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and comment below to let me know how you got on with that one. And of course, if you subscribe, then you'll never miss another video. Until next time, bye!